I'm Sprite John, and this is the team building guide in Yokai Watch Puni. Now, I need to clarify this beforehand. I focus on thrones and like no bonusing challenge stages. Like, if you're a new player, you just need a team that can clear stages fast so you can grind Y points to get more characters, all that stuff, yada yada. I don't care about score attack. I don't care about like ceiling stages or weird gimmicky stages like Soultimate draining. I just care about like a pure throne like stage, no questions asked. So we have this in the Puni Docs Discord server, which you can find on the image right here. You can see this is from the Puni Docs. You can see the link for it right here. Join it. I even have a link to the docs in the description below. You can check it out. Like, apparently they have like whole help sections. There's even like a whole argument of like whether free to play Heartful is bad or not. So anyways, this is a team building guide. So if you like, there's a whole bunch of things that I should have pulled up, but I haven't. So let me go pull them up real quick. I'm here to tell you why you should be building a team the way you should. So anyways, I think Eerie is the best example of a balanced tribe. So let's go ahead and take a look at some things that are pretty important. You got your EX popper and your fever extender. If we go to my freaking tier list right here, you'll see that I find these two to be two of the best Soultimate types in the entire game. Why is that? Well, if you'll take a look at my damage guide that I have somewhere in this channel, by the way. Nice. You'll know that if you have both of these up at the same time, it'll increase the damage of other Soultimate types by around 128%, give or take, depending on ranks. So that's a really sizable increase. So whenever you're trying to like no bonus something, you'll want these because the increase in damage is just too good to give up. Next, if we go to skills, you'll see that I have Unity here. Unity is just an amazing skill. A character with this boosts the tribe unity, and the more tribe unity you have, the more sort of damage and HP you'll have. If we go take a look at this graphic made by the Puni Doc, you'll see that there is this watch. This is the Dark Watch, which buffs the stats of Shady and Eerie by 15%. You'll want this because it's basically like 15% more unity as long as the whole tribe has this. So they effectively have 89% unity. So you take all of their stats combined and then increase it by 89%. So actually like really insane. Now that we have, our two super good damage buffers, what else do we want? Well, we have two unity characters being Arachnus and Taicho Ray, and Taicho Ray also happens to fill another sort of niche that we need, that being Fast Fever. Fast Fever basically means that whenever you link this Puni, it will increase the fever gauge more than usual. And a character with this skill, as long as they're a double Z rank or above, that means it multiplies the fever gauge it would normally fill by 2.4 times. So instead of having to link 30 Puni at once in order to get into fever time instantly, you only need to link 13 of this Puni at once. And however, if you don't link it at once, then you'll have to link more, but it's still an amazing skill. And it's why Shady is one of, if not the worst tribes in the game, because they just don't have one. They instead have an easy link character, which is like almost Fast Fever, but not really. It just makes the character easier to link around the board. So we have a Fast Fever, we have damage buffers, we have Unity. What else is there? Well, Chainer support would be really nice if you don't have to give anything up, which Izana is a perfect example of. He is a character with the drop big skill, meaning that the Puni can fall larger than usual, and is also an inflate 4 character, meaning he'll inflate the 4 largest Puni on the screen. And if you just make sure you don't, if you just pop his Puni, you can inflate Jenga, who is the hardest hitting character on the team. So he can get you 2 Jenga Soultimates, maybe even 3 if you're good enough. He is that good. Which is why I think Eerie is such a great tribe, because they can just hit really freaking hard because you're mainly just using this guy. And this guy's super easy to get the Soultimate up of, and he also happens to have the final skill that is really good. Well, not the final skill, but another skill that's really good. That being the Revive skill. Basically, instead of dying, you'll survive with like 600 HP or something. Meaning you can get 1 extra Soultimate before dying to counters. And if you kill with that Soultimate, then you'll just win. So it's basically like an extra Soultimate guaranteed. Really good, really nice skill to have. It's also kind of like overrated while also being underrated. Like people say that Heartful isn't really as crazy as it actually is because they don't have a revive. But if you just like hit hard enough, you don't need a revive. Like Charming with like all of their Nyanbos, they hit hard enough, they don't need the revive. Tough with all of the good characters, you don't need a revive. Mysterious, if you get lucky enough, you don't need a revive. Or if you just like have the best team because they have a new Nyanbo exclusive, which I might as well go ahead and talk about now because it's just pretty insane. So it will be a Natsuyomi like swimsuit. Like yeah, it's a problem. That's just what Japan does. They put teens, I guess, in swimsuits. I don't know. It's weird. But anyways, her kit, she's an all-pop inflate 4. Linking her Puni. I don't know if this is just her Puni or any Puni. But her soul gauge fills after linking Puni. And then she has the start a range skill, just like Summer Setsuna, which is the whole reason I think Heartful is so good. So, you know, if they just have the same thing Heartful does, while also being able to put on crits with Blue Sky Homotuzaku, oh yeah, it's a pretty insane tribe. So, not only do we have, like, the normal stuff with Eerie, like, this is, like, a very vanilla tribe. Meanwhile, Mysterious is a very, like, unique tribe. Because if we go back to my skills tier list over here, you'll see that I have things like crits, starter ranged, aqua fever power, all in the good no matter the kit. That's because these skills are just so amazing that even though they don't have things like a revive, like, it just makes up for any sort of flaw that they have. Like, Mysterious's biggest flaw is that they don't have that high of HP, but because they can crit, guard, and now start rearranged, so they don't need to get hit with a normal, like, it's so crazy. They do such high damage, especially considering that they, like, this is without taking the crits into consideration, where they do 50% more damage sometimes. So, ignoring that, they still hit just as hard as, like, Heartful or Tough. So, like, I'm not sure about, like, the bad Tough, where you just, like, have 4 Unity characters, or maybe even 5. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about just, like, you know, normal Tough, minus this guy. I don't like bringing both of them. I don't care if they work best together. You don't need both of them. It'd be better to bring a chainer support. So, like, you got your EX Popper, who buffs the damage of everybody. Your Fever Extender, who not only hits harder than basically anybody sometimes, depending on the tribe, but also buffs their damage to make it more on the Fever Extender's level. I should be doing this with Heartful, not with Shady. Buffing the damage of everybody else to be more on the Fever Extender's level. A Fast Fever, so that way you only have to get hit with the normal once, maybe even 0 depending on the kit you have. Having a Revive, there's no one with a Revive. Having a Revive, in, like, if you don't have to give something up in order to get it, and you just being, like, chainable, which doesn't work for Brave, but works for I guess Heartful. Noelle and Summer Setsuna can work together to get everybody's Soultimate back, and then Orihime Natsuyomi is an Inflate 4, so pretty insane. Whenever I do, like, my no bonuses, I'm trying to get hit only one time while using my Fast Fever in order to, like, minimize the amount of normals I'm having to take, so that way I have as much HP as I can in order to deal with the counters that the boss is going to do every time I do a Soultimate. So, having a character with guard, such as Kirachara, means that sometimes those guards, instead of dealing like 2,000 damage, they only deal 200 damage, meaning I can potentially take another guard I wouldn't be able to normally. And having a revive means that I can also just take another guard, because I just won't die. It also helps to get the Soultimate up if it's like somebody like young Rine from Mysterious. I feel like people kind of overrate Tough because they say, oh, Gunshin can get you into Fever Time without taking damage, but that's not really like the case. If you have good board RNG, then yeah, sure, he can. But, like, even with Heartful and Charming, with their start arranged, you don't always get into Fever Time without taking damage. It's like, you just need good enough board RNG. which isn't a problem for them specifically. It's a problem for everybody. Like if you just get bad board luck, then it's kind of just it's just a problem. Unless you're Enma and you have 10 seconds of stunned enemy time to just fiddle around. Crazy. So having more unities buffs up everybody's damage, buffs up the HP. So that's why I like running Noelle instead of one of the revive characters, because yeah, sure, they get me an extra Soultimate, but the extra HP and the extra damage that I get from the extra 16% unity, I just feel it's more worth it. And since they're not getting hit by normals, you're not really going to need a revive. What's crazy? They have really high stats, but because they don't have a revive or guard, it's not as crazy as you'd think. And since they have to get hit with a normal, unless you restart until you get into Fever Town without taking a normal, in which case everybody does that, and then Slippery is even farther down in the tier list. Yeah. If I'm saying like, oh, Slippery's not that good, what do I think of the tribes now? Well, I haven't made a video for like a tribes update yet, but I guess I can go ahead and show what I'm currently thinking. So yeah, let's do that. Oh hey, if you were to Google tribes tier list and then scroll down a little bit, would you look at that? It's me. Anyways. Great, come on, load. I have too many tabs open. I guess I can close this. Ew. Oh, it has Yamada. Android Yamada, let's go. So anyways, we have the peak here with Brave. We have top tiers with Heartful and now I think Mysterious. Basically, top tier, I think, is Tough, Charming, Enma, and Eerie. Then can cook if it goes well. We have Slippery, Shady, and then below, we have the Not Real with Wicked and Yamada. So why is Brave so good? Well, they have Megumin, who does like 700,000 damage in one Ultimate with all the multipliers. So yeah, pretty insane. Why is Heartful so good? They're like one of the most consistent tribes in the entire game. I don't feel like anybody knows this because nobody has the best Heartful characters. But like, I'm so close to getting a run like every time. And anytime I don't get a run, it's either because I have bad board RNG or I couldn't get the G ultimates for some characters, and if I had Baby U, those problems would be fixed. Shut up. Oh my god, what do you want? Who are you? It's Gmail. Shut up. So if I had Baby U, who just like kind of fixes those problems, they're like the most consistent tribe in the game, which is why I think that they're better than everybody else. Mysterious, you can like, they're not as consistent, but they have a higher ceiling. So you can swap them all you want. If they're in the same like tier, then you can like move them around all you want, except for this. Don't do this. The reason I think Tough is so much better now is because they have an LB10 throne character in Jupiter Death, and he can hit for like 280,000 damage on the optimal team. So like, what? They can deal 700,000 damage in 3 Ultimates. That's crazy. That's really insane. And yeah, they have like a ton of stats, but because they don't have a revive or a guard character, they are like capped in their damage, and they're not as consistent as Heartful, because if you get bad board RNG, then you again, consistency is also a like hidden factor in why I rank Tribe so good. Brave is kind of like the outlier here because like they just hit so hard. It doesn't really matter how many normals you take; they'll just win anyway, as long as you're good enough or have good enough board RNG, which is always a problem. So like Heartful is the most consistent tribe. Mysterious is coming in pretty good. Charming is also a really consistent tribe, but they just don't do what Heartful does. They just don't hit as hard because they just lack a whole unity bonus. Tough can hit really freaking hard and has a lot of HP, but because they don't have any sort of special gimmicks, they're literally just stats, which isn't enough to make you a top tier when Brave exists. Enma might actually be the most consistent tribe in the game. which, like, honestly, you can argue with Enma up here because of Foodle Boy Gold with the crits, Boso Enma with the stun, the Fast Fever with New Year's Kyra. But I just put them down here just because I don't like saying Enma is the best tribe in the game, because like we're also rarely allowed to use them anyway, so they're really good. They can literally go anywhere in this tier list with enough like crits, but they also don't have a guard, so not as good as Mysterious in my opinion. Eerie is like again the most like good character. They're like tough, but like they don't hit as. Honestly, there's not really much of a difference between Eerie and tough now that I'm thinking about it. They're like Eerie is like tough, but with less stats, less damage, but a revive. Which sounds bad until you realize that they're also really friggin' chainable. With tough, it's not really that big a concern because they have 2 tap inflators, so it's good enough for something. And if one of them does 280,000 damage on a G Soultimate, yeah, 2 of them gets you almost 600,000. So they don't really need to be chainable anymore. Slippery just kind of has low stats, and like they basically have to bring a guard sometimes. Depends on the fight. Meanwhile, everyone else, barring like Mysterious, but they can crit, so it doesn't matter. Yeah. And then Shady doesn't have a Fast Fever, and they have high stats, but their hardest hitting character is a Tap Inflator. The second hardest hitting character is an EX Popper. And then the third hardest hitting character is Boso Hinozal, and the other 2 characters are double Z ranks. Which, like, their stats, like, you would think that they're pretty good, but they're like Brave level of stats. But they don't have a Fast Fever, but they have a Guard and Revive, which is why I kind of think that they kind of go above Slippery sometimes. But don't tell anybody that. And these 2 just aren't real. So yeah, that is how I personally, like, try to build teams. Having EX Poppers to buff everyone's damage. Fever Extenders to buff the damage in Fever time and deal tons of damage. A Fast Fever and Unity character if I can get away with it. Revive if I can also get away with it. Guard is also really nice sometimes. It's not consistent, but when Guard does good, Guard absolutely like carries the bad teams. It's so good. So yeah, just try to like, if you're a free-to-play player and you just kind of wanted to know like what the good team builds are, now you kind of have an idea. So like I'm not really a good beginner guide person. I'm more of like somebody who was in the position I was in at the start of the year, who was like, oh, okay, like I want to get into this game like competitively, like that exists, and be able to, you know bonus stages. I've been playing this game for like years. Maybe, I don't think it's been 6 years. Maybe it's like 4 or 5. I have no idea. Whenever the Crystal Slurping event was, that's how old my account is. So, but I've played Wibble Wobble like way before then. But I've only really focused on like getting good at the game like this year. So I don't know as much as like the sweats who have been playing since day one. I'm not that good, but I have picked up a lot. So I just like to share the knowledge so that, because like there is no other guide that does this. No one else on YouTube at least is really doing this to the level that I am. Nobody has like calculated that an EX Popper and a Fever Extender gives around 128% bonus. Like no one's done that. Nobody's figured out how the like nobody can. I don't even have the exact calculations of like how big an increase a Unity bonus is. So I just try to be like a little beacon of like maybe you're just like, I wonder what's like good, and then you see friggin' this, and you're like, oh shoot, I have Noelle. I didn't realize she was that good. I'll put her on my team, and now you got like a somewhat better team. Or maybe you're like this, and you're like, oh, this guy, I didn't know his crits worked for the entire team like I was. And you're like, oh, cool. That just makes them even better. So yeah, hope you enjoyed. Hope you learned something. Thank you to the Puni docs for having this. I didn't end up using it, but I have Sallitine spreadsheet, which is not updated to have the new characters. It only goes to the friggin' Tensora collab so far. Then we have the docs by Mao, and these 2 work together to make the this. So yeah, hope you enjoyed, and yeah, bye.